statistics. We also call it like a measure of center. So we're going to go through today, we're going to have a bunch of different data sets, and we're going to have different ways to evaluate kind of the middle of that data set, and we can get information from that. So I gave you the definitions of mean, median, and mode in their box. Sometimes they're just called the 3 M's, where your first one, mean, is the sum of all your data divided by the number of data values. So add up all your data together to get a number, then divide that by the number of kind of data points or values you have. We also call mean, that's just another word for average. The median of a data set is the middle number when the data is written in numerical order. So it's written from highest to lowest. Your middle number would be your median. If you ever get, when you have an even number of data points, you're not going to have a true middle, so you find the averaged middle, your averaged median. Your last piece, your mode, that's just the data set that occurs most often. So, in example 1, Dr. Johnson records how much time he spends roller skating each week, and our data set is written below. So 1 week he spends 5 hours, the next week he spends 4 hours, then he spends 7 hours, 21 hours, this should be comma 2, not 212 hours, 7 hours, 3 hours, and so on. So we're going to go through and we're going to find the mean, median, mode for Dr. Johnson and his roller skating. So to find the mean, what we have to do is sum together all of our data values. So that's going to give us the total number of hours. So we're going to take 4 plus 5 plus 7 plus 21 plus 2 plus 7 plus 3 plus 0 plus 9, plus 6. You don't have to write this out. I'm just doing it to show you all. You get out a number when you add all those together. And then you divide it by the number of values that we have. Altogether, we recorded over 9 weeks. Make that 9 a little clearer. 9 weeks. So we divide our sum by the number of values we have. So that value is 9. So we add up all of our numbers on our top and we get 55. And we divide that by 9. So 55 divided by 9 will get you 6.1. So on average, Dr. Johnson roller skates 6.1 hours per week. That is one of our measures of center. To find another measure of center, we'll do our median. To do median correctly, we have to write our values from least to greatest. So my lowest value is 0. My highest value is 21, and I have to fill in everything in between. So it goes 0, then we have 2, then we have 3, 4, and 5. We have 6. We have 2 7s, so 7 and 7, and we have 21. If you write all these out, it's nice because then there's a real simple way to find what your median is. You can go through and start on either end and just keep crossing things out. So we cross off like the head and the caboose. Then we go another one in and we cross out the next 2. And we keep moving in, 1 on each side, until we get to the middle. If you don't want to cross out, you can always do it with your fingers and like cover up as you move in. But our median then is going to be 5. That's like our middle value of all the data. The definition of mode is just the number that occurs most often. Sometimes there'll be no mode, that means the number never repeats. There can be one mode where there's only one number, or there can be multiple modes, meaning that multiple numbers repeat the same number of times. In our case, with Dr. Johnson and his roller skating, twice he roller skated for 7 hours during a week, so our mode would be 7. 7 is the number that occurs most frequently in our list. When we have data sets, we can have what's called an outlier. So an outlier is a value that is much greater than or much less than all the other values. Not every data set has an outlier, but this one does. Because if we look, 21 seems a little off. That seems like a lot to roller skate in 1 week. Maybe it was super nice out. Maybe Dr. Johnson didn't have anything going on. But we would call 21 an outlier because there is a significant difference between 21 and the next highest value. So you'd say 21 is an outlier. What outliers do is they kind of skew your data, and it's going to kind of inflate or deflate your numbers. So what we're going to do now to see how that's happening, we're going to remove our outlier and do those same 3 calculations, mean, median, and mode. So to find our mean, we would add up all of our numbers, but we would just not include 21. So we would do 5 plus 4 plus 7. We'd skip 21. So we add 2, and then we add 7, and then we add 3, then we add 0, and we add 6. And instead of having 9 data values, now we only have 8. So we divide this by 8 to find our average. We sum up our numbers on the top, or you could just think of taking 55, since that was the sum of all our numbers, and we just take 21 away from that. So we get 34, and we divide that by 8. You get out 4.25. So now our mean is significantly lower now. Let's see what happens when we have our median. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rewrite them out, smallest to largest, but this time we don't have that 21 in there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7. So I'm going to do the same kind of process. I'm going to cross out until I get to the middle. So I cross out here and here, here and here, here and here. If I go one more step in, I'm crossing out 4 and 5, and then I have nothing left. So really the true middle is in between 4 and 5. That's where median is going to be. Whenever you have an even number of data sets, data points, you always have to find your middle, so your mean of your 2 values. So mean is just adding the 2 together and dividing by 2. So 4 plus 5 divided by 2, that's equal to 4.5. So our median here is 4.5. And that would make sense because the exact middle between 4 and 5 is 4.5. And then our mode stays at 7, because that's still the number that occurs most often. So in our last question, what effect does the outlier have on the mean, median, and mode? We're just going to answer this in one sentence. Comparing our 2 values that we got in question A and question C, our first mean with the outlier was 6.1. When we take the outlier out, our mean drops all the way down to 4.25. Our median drops down by half, but our mode stays the same. So a great, like a 1-sentence explanation would be, the outlier raises the mean and median. Then we could say, but the mode doesn't change. So when I look at all the information that we're given, you were to ask me which one is better to use, the 4.25 or the 6.1. A lot of this chapter is about like constructing arguments. So the 4.25 is a better mean to use because if we look at the data that we're actually given, there was 1 week Dr. Johnson didn't roller skate at all. There were some weeks he roller skated like 2 or 3 hours. The average looking at that is not 6. It's only 6 because of that 1 week where he roller skated a lot, which is why it's an outlier. So there's a section on your homework where it's just like this. You're going to go through and answer basically all of the same questions. We'll flip to the back side now, and our last kind of topic is range. So the range of a data set is just the difference between the lowest value and the highest value. So it's also, some people call it like, what's your spread? Your spread between your highest value and your lowest value. So Mr. Scully and Mr. Bruder went bowling. I bowled and I scored a 198, a 205, a 215, and a 185. Mr. Bruder is also a pretty good bowler, and he scored a 182, a 235, a 216, and a 193. We want to find the range of scores for Mr. Scully and Mr. Bruder. What I'm going to do first, because we're going to use it a lot, I'm just going to write everything in numerical order. So I'm going to write my scores from highest to lowest. So my lowest was 185. Then I went to 198. Then I was at 205 and then 215. And Mr. Bruder scores, his lowest was 182. Then we would get 193 and 216. And then the last one was 235 was Mr. Bruder's highest. So to find the range of values, we subtract the highest value from the lowest value. So for me, we'll just do S for Scully. We would do 215 minus 185, and that gives you 30. So I have a range of 30. Mr. B for Bruder, we would take 235 minus 182, and that gives us, is it like 54, I think? Double check my work. 53. It's close. So Mr. Bruder got a higher score than me with his 235, but I have the smaller range, which you could interpret as saying that Mr. Bruder may be a better bowler than I am, but I'm more consistent because I have less like fluctuation in where my scores are at. So comparing the ranges of Mr. Bruder now, you could just say that Mr. Bruder has a larger range, which isn't always a good thing and it's not always a bad thing, depending on kind of your scenario of your problem. Zoom in anymore. In our last example, we're finding the mean, median, and mode for both of us. So I like to make like a little informal chart, S for Scully, B for Bruder, and just label as my columns the three things I'm trying to find. Median, mode, and so I should do it in order. I should do mean, median, and mode. Mean, median, and mode. So to find the mean, we have to add up all my values together. We have to add 185 plus 192 plus 205 plus 215. And that gets us 98 plus 205 plus 215. We get 803. And then we take 803 divided by 4 would give us your mean for Mr. Scully. And then we'll do that on your calculator, divide by 4. You get like about 200. You get 200.75 will be my mean. Finding Mr. Bruder's mean, we could add up 182 plus 193 plus 216 plus 235. We get 826. And we gotta divide that by 4. And you get 206.5 when you do that. So looking at this, Mr. Bruder has an overall, he has a higher average than I do by like just a little less than 6 points. So again, we get the 803 and the 826 by just adding up all of our values. And since we played 4 games, that's why we divide by 4. To find the median for both of us, if we wrote a numerical order so we can use this right away. If we go through and we kind of cross things off for both of us, we know that we're going to have to find the average between these two numbers to find the true center. So we take 205 plus 198, and we divide that by 2. Yeah, it's 403 divided by 2, which is 201.5. So there's my median. And then 216 plus 193, we get 409 divided by 4. Would I not add correctly here? Why isn't this working? 193 plus 206. Divide by 2. We get 204.5. It's the middle between those two. And again, if I want to show like my work in my chart, this is 198 plus 205 divided by 2. It's 201.5. And then 193 plus 216 divided by 2. It's 204.5. And both of these, the mode, since no number repeats, we would have none for both of these. None and none. So there's a lot of like information you can get from this. You could like make an argument based on part B that I'm the better bowler because I am more consistent. I have a smaller range. But when you go through and you look at your mean and median, you can make the argument, well, Mr. Bruder has a higher mean and a higher median, so that may make him the better bowler. Again, it's all about constructing arguments, which we'll do more and more as we go through this chapter.